Uachtarán is in Urke, is Aresloncha, Leovradica. Is Minlam Mawikas a Caranul the Corla Colostariga and a man la in Erin, Asan Colach the Unikshaw, a Veronar, Magus Glockham Lish Cohul, Agus me Arakar na Colti a Hanig Rome, a Raven a Mask Uachtarán a hÉireann ar fat, Agus Dini on in Ricarnos Nelson Mandela, Mahar Teresa, Agus Shemasini. As mór privilege am a lucha mas colúder co clúteach sin, the garma had digrasach agus an ahniam, itches and clostet ha cumshehe in Ormana, concilio manaque. Council and members of the Royal College of Surgeons of Ireland, Minister for Health Leovradica, distinguished guests, representatives of scholarship in medicine and in so many areas. May I express my gratitude to the Council of the Royal College of Surgeons of Ireland for conferring on me the distinction of Honorary Fellow. In accepting this honour, I am mindful of the distinguished line of Honorary Fellows of this college. It comprises, of course, all the previous presidents of Ireland, and then such figures of outstanding contribution to humanity as Nelson Mandela and Seamus Heaney. To join such a renowned group of dedicated professionals in an honorary capacity is a privilege, and I'm very conscious of the ethos of the college that is encapsulated in your motto, Concilio Manuque, scholarship and dexterity. I appreciate the honour you confer on me, not least because the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland occupies a unique place, not only in the heart of this city, but indeed in this country. Ever since the foundation of the college in the late 18th century, and I congratulate you on your Charter Day, Trí Sliam Live, so many of its fellows, staff and students have taken a passionate interest and often an active part in the debates of ideas, movements, events of the day. I have been very moved in reading about so many of those who have entered the public discourse, the public world, with such generosity, going beyond the boundaries of their technical training to engage with the issues and the passions of the day. Sylvester O'Halloran, for example, one of the driving forces behind the creation of this college, who campaigned in a very Irish way for an academy that would have integrity of scholarship in dealing, for example, with the Irish annals. In his Insula Sacra of 1770, he denounced the distortions of Irish history presented in Macpherson's famous volume, Poems, and he expressed his indignation at how, as he put it, even in these modern days of erudition and curiosity, we have seen such monstrous accounts of this country and people as are truly astonishing. The suggestion that the Irish could not, in fact, have been the source of some of the major mythic folktales of these islands. Of course, he was rewarded in his efforts by the founding of the Royal Irish Academy in 1785, and this distinguished surgeon became one of its founding members. Centuries-old institutions such as this one, they are important not just because of the wealth of expertise they make available to us, but also through the depth of history they can summon up and the connections they offer with inspiring events and people from our past. Yes, we're gathered to commemorate the Royal Charter which established this college on the 11th of February 1784. And as you conclude 3 days of intense discussions on surgical matters, it might be a good time to allow ourselves to pause and evoke some of those great people and critical events that have left their mark, indeed at times, very concretely, in the form of the bullets aimed at them, for which the bullet holes retained on the walls of this venerable institution give testimony today. An exercise in historical imagination seems all the more propitious as this year we are commemorating the centenary of one of the foundational events in the history of our state, the rising of Easter 1916. Surely our imagination is prompted by the knowledge that these very settings were host to one of the rising's most emblematic episodes. But if I may, however, start upstream of Easter 1916 and recall the memory of a former president of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, Sir Thomas Miles, the path of engagement followed by Professor Miles, and the manner in which he responded to events, both as a patriot and as a doctor, shed lights on the complexity of the political views, motives, and identity of those who took part in the events of Ireland's revolutionary decade between 1912 and 1923. That is a complexity which repays respect in scholarship and opinion. Sir Thomas Miles was a prominent supporter of Home Rule. His campaign for the presidency of the College of Surgeons thus stirred much controversy. His opponents portending that he would, as they put it, associate the college with the promoters of anarchy and discord. Let you take that as encouragement. Sir Thomas Miles was also an enthusiastic yachtsman whose name remains associated with the Kilcool gun running of the summer of 1914. The story of how hundreds of rifles destined to the Irish volunteers were smuggled from Hamburg to Howth by Mary Spring Rice and Molly and Erskine Childers on board the Asgard is very well known. What is less known, however, is that some of those rifles were offloaded onto Conor O'Brien's famous boat, the Kelpie, and later transferred to Miles's yacht, the Chota, who delivered them at Kilcool, County Wicklow, on the 1st of August 1914. There Miles was met by a group of Irish volunteers, commanded by Sean Fitzgibbon and Sean Callig, who later became, as we acknowledge the hand of fate and the movement of God in mysterious ways, President of Ireland and an Honorary Fellow of this college. Yet, as a loyal supporter of Redmond and the Irish Parliamentary Party, Sir Thomas Miles was no partisan of insurrection. After all, he served as consulting surgeon to the British forces in Ireland during the duration of World War I. His path crossed that of the Easter 1916 insurgents in the most fortuitous of ways, as he happened to be passing by when the commandant of the Irish Citizen Army Detachment, who had attempted to take Dublin Castle, shot dead the policeman on duty at the gate. Miles unsuccessfully tried to save the constable's life, and then realizing that a major event was underway in Dublin, he proceeded to Richmond Hospital, where he spent the week tending to the wounded from all sides. The Royal College of Surgeons itself was, of course, as June Shannon has put it, an important, if unwitting, participant in the historic events of Easter week 1916, taken as it was by a contingent of about 120 men and women, led by Commandant Michael Mallon and Countess Constance Markvik of the Irish Citizen Army. The story goes that the group managed to take the college rather easily, as the porter had to open the door to Royal College of Surgeons of Ireland Fellow John Freeman Knott, who is described as an elderly, erudite and eccentric scholar, a compliment in any generation if delivered in the right spirit. He had arrived for his daily visit to the college, totally oblivious to the chaos, gunfire, and armed groups of men and women all around him. Once inside the college, the insurgents built barricades with items of furniture and, sadly, books from the library in the entrance hall. The immediate concern of the women, in particular for Citizen Army member Madeleine French Mullen and her assistants Nori O'Daly, Bridget Murdoch and Rosie Hackett, was to establish a first aid station in the large college hall where we had our drinks reception earlier. The robust walls of the college made of it an excellent stronghold, impervious to the fire from the British Army troops positioned on the roof of the nearby Shelburne Hotel. On Sunday morning, as the garrison inside the college were getting ready for a final assault, they received instead word of the surrender from Cumnamun member Elizabeth O'Farrell. The tricolour brought from the GPO by one of the Irish Citizen Army female combatants, Margaret Skinner, which had flown over the college for a week, was lowered and a white flag hoisted in its place. It was discovered afterwards that no serious damage had been done to the Royal College of Surgeons of Ireland during the insurrection, with the exception, it seems, of a life-sized portrait of Queen Victoria, which had been ripped from its frame. It is interesting to note that many of the casualties from the College of Surgeons and from other fighting sites across the city were taken care of in various hospitals by people associated with the college. We know today that Sir Thomas Miles and other RCSI graduates and licentiates, such as Michael Francis Cox and John Stephen McCardle, for example, ignored demands from the British authorities that they were to report any suspicious wounds. In her paper, Surgeons and Insurgents, historian Mary McAleese recounts how James Connolly, who had been badly wounded during the GPO battle, was cared for after the surrender by a white-haired elderly man. That was Surgeon Tobin, who was a fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons of Ireland, and Nora Connolly reported how she heard her father refer to Tobin as this wonderful man. And after Connolly's death, Richard Francis Tobin and writer George Russell, AE, made sure financial assistance was provided to the impoverished Connolly family, and indeed to the Mallon family. While they may have differed in their political views, these Irish doctors were deeply committed to medical ethics and humanist principles, to what we would call today human rights. Many of them also grappled with the concepts of freedom, equality and justice that stirred Irish society at the turn of the last century. More recently, a similar concern for justice and human rights, not just in Ireland but in the wider world, was remarkably demonstrated by the Royal College of Surgeons of Ireland through the role it played in the anti-apartheid movement. As you know very well, the rise of apartheid in South Africa from the late 1940s onwards imposed a shocking institutionalized form of racial segregation throughout every sector of society. South Africa's Indian minority were, among others, directly affected by restrictions placed on access to higher education for what was called the non-white population. In the early 1950s, the Royal College of Surgeons provided for the annual admission of a quota of South African Indian students. This was due in part to the commitment of the college's registrar, Professor William Norman Ray, who served in the post from 1938 to 1962, and who implemented this policy in direct response to the implementation of apartheid. A number of prominent student activists of the anti-apartheid movement thus developed personal and academic connections to Ireland. For example, Hussein Kovadia is one of the organisers, or Ishmael Mente. This important chapter in the history of the college was acknowledged by Nelson Mandela in his acceptance speech to this assembly when he said, "During the dark days of apartheid, your college provided places for many South Africans who were excluded by racist laws from medical schools of their own country. Through these doctors, you are making an inestimable contribution to the healthcare needs of our people." What a powerful compliment. And interestingly, most of these Indian students were of Muslim confession, belonging to the Ismaili Shia community. Thus, the Royal College of Surgeons has played a significant historical role in fostering the steady development of Ireland's Muslim population since the 1950s. And that trend accelerated then in the following decade, in the 1960s and 70s, with the arrival of your postgraduate students from Libya, Jordan, Egypt, Syria, Iraq, and Sudan. This year, we are also celebrating the 20th anniversary of the establishment of Penang Medical College in Malaysia, of which I am proud to be the patron. Established in 1996 with a view to addressing the shortage of doctors in Malaysia and other Southeast Asian countries, This joint educational venture between the Penang State Government, National University of Ireland, University College Dublin, and the Royal College of Surgeons of Ireland provides an excellent example of the most beneficial international cooperation, whereby state-sponsored students are enabled to study abroad before they return to their home country to complete their clinical training and then serve there as highly qualified doctors. And I'm also delighted to note that the graduation of the first class of medical students at Perdana University in Kuala Lumpur will be celebrated in Kuala Lumpur in June of this year. So, for decades, before we began speaking of Ireland as a multicultural society, the Royal College of Surgeons has been a highly successful multicultural microcosm, providing the best of medical education to students of all backgrounds and from so many cultures. It is an institution that has taken by this work the good name of Ireland to the four corners of the globe, and thanks to its extensive network of alumni. Indeed, for me, one of the joys of traveling around the world since my inauguration as president has been to meet so often the many graduates of this college who proudly tell me that they count Ireland as their second home. A commitment to internationalism and to derechos humanos, human rights, as well as to the public world, can be seen in the pioneering careers of so many of your peers over the decades, including figures such as my dear friend, Dr. Kevin Cahill, who joined this college in 1969 as chair of the Tropical Diseases Department. I had the pleasure as president to present Kevin with the President's Distinguished Service Award in 2014 in acknowledgement of his important contribution to global medicine and to the public and cultural life of Ireland and to the United States. And there is nobody who enjoys a higher reputation in the United Nations. Dear friends, this year, as we commemorate the centenary of the 1916 Easter Rising, we are invited to rekindle and take on further the unfulfilled, incomplete promises of equality and justice that animated the founders of our state. And as we consider the proclamation of 1916, and the idealism that inspired it, we are called on to continue the work of crafting together a republic of which we can all be proud, a republic that is responsive to the great challenges of our time, respecting all their complexities. This college, with its great tradition of humanism, its record of educational excellence, its globalized perspective, has a crucial contribution to make. Indeed, when we consider the great challenges of humanity in this new century, it is clear that the realization of the right to health and all the other basic human rights that relate to it, such as adequate housing, nutritious food, decent working conditions, a clean environment, they remain of fundamental importance. And we are challenged by the two great challenges agreed in 2015. Sustainable Development Goals and a response to climate change. The members of this college have played and continue to play a prominent role in our national public discourse, and you have shown a willingness to bring your expertise and experience into the public space, the public discourse, where policy is debated and developed. And as we consider how Ireland might achieve the highest quality of health service, your intellectual and practical contributions will be essential. But may I suggest, it is also essential that considerations of different policy options are predicated upon an uncompromising vindication of the right of all our citizens and all of our fellow humans with whom we share this vulnerable planet to access adequate health care. And the best strategy for achieving the realization of this most fundamental of human rights, as well as all other essential social goods, here as in developing countries, is, I very strongly believe, through the nurturing of a robust public service. The right to health, of course, is inextricably linked to ethical questions, questions of equality, respect for diversity, and human dignity. And thus this institution must continue to protect and enhance its proud tradition of humanism and concern for human rights. Living up to that high standard ensures the future heritage of a great institution that has a noble and scholarly history. All of you who are associated with the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland are fortunate to be able to draw on the great examples set by so many of your forebears. You are fortunate to be able to draw on a core of tested professional values as you contribute to make Ireland the real republic of which our founders dreamed. Agus dá bhórsan mar focail square is min lam buicas a gháil ríis liv goléir as an fíorcin fóilse a dáris i bhrúm héin agus raibh me bhain céile saifin agus me inin eile shuáire agus seans ligantam pórta glacu sa tradiisiún bro lena anam nín sib Uachtarán mar cólta onye genúr Costa Rica. May I thank you all once again for welcoming me here, and Sabina and Alice Mary, and allowing me to join and be part in a humble way of your great tradition of presidential fellows. Ganairiga Galiv Santaki is Garamila Mahagi. Every success in the future and my deepest gratitude. Thank you.